name's Joanne Bigham. I'm the owner of Open Door Designs. We do a lot of different things here. We sell local artists, our own work. We make puppet theaters and puppets. We also have a large collection of vintage puppets as well. I'll show the one out of my collection that most people are drawn to when they come into the store. It's a papier-mâché hand puppet with rabbit cuffs and collar, rabbit fur. And he reminds me of an Albrecht Dürer puppet.
I am Anne Powell, and I work with Puppet Mongers Theatre, which is the puppet theatre company I started with my brother.
And I'm David Powell, Anne's younger brother, and the co-artistic director of Puppet Mongers with her.
Officially within the company I'm called artistic director, co-artistic director, but puppeteer covers it really. We've built, about 12 or 13 shows,
Yep.
Most of which are still in repertoire, and each one might have an average of about a dozen puppets. A lot of people aren't just starting a company, or they might have a sort of a collective of some kind, but they're not formalizing it, and they're making themselves they work with lots of different people on lots of different projects, rather than saying, this is my company and this is where I'm going to get my income.
I approach puppetry from a visual artist point of view. My aesthetic is very particular. A puppet, to be successful for me, has to have its own persona. A puppet has to have a personality. It has to have some kind of spirituality, I guess. Looks like me to Mondrian. Do you know the painter? But isn't he beautiful? He's just so beautiful. Someone brought this in, and it's been identified as a vaudeville puppet. And that's the other part of the history of puppetry, is from vaudeville. What I love about puppetry is that it's an anarchistic art form. And the puppet can speak what the human cannot. A puppet can speak truth to power. Puppets can say anything and get away with it.
The other things, of course, that puppets can do that humans can't do is they can fly.
They can swim when there's no water,
Yep.
for instance.
They can do all sorts of physical things that humans
Yes.
can't do. They just are who you are suspending belief for them to be. Because that's the big thing, is you're suspending your disbelief. You're pretending that that thing really is that character.
When we had been working with marionettes, and we thought, well, why we were so far away from the puppets. And the next puppets that we developed for a story, we had our hands right on them with a handle in the back.
One of the things we like about the puppets with no strings or sticks up, we're there, we're holding the puppet, we can take the puppet's hand and our hand can do the work. So the puppet looks like it's doing stuff.
But the puppet does always need somebody to help it do what it wants to do.
Yeah.
People talk a lot about the breath of the puppet bringing it alive and stuff. Somebody clarified that for us, actually, Chaykowski at Ukwam in Montreal, that what it is that the puppet needs to seem as though it's their idea to do the action, but the puppeteer is kind of having to help them do it, which is an interesting way to think about it. You know, it's not the manipulator making it do it, manipulating, oh, aren't I good manipulating my puppet? No, the puppet is leading. The puppet has to lead, yeah, and that's what brings it to life.
I couldn't imagine making a living being an artist, but I approached the world as an artist. I discovered this whole world of puppetry that I didn't know anything about from a visual artist's point of view, not from a puppeteer's point of view. Yeah, I look at them as art objects. For example, this one, he's probably from the 30s. He was probably used by a performer trying to make a living during the Depression. This was from the 30s as well. It was really a heyday for puppets, and it came like this, made in Japan before the Second World War, and came out of the box like that, and voila. Isn't that beautiful? And This, I don't know who made it or where it's from, but I think it's Othello. And to me, that's just one of the most beautiful puppets there is.
So what's happening is this really lovely mechanic, his nose slides up to make his eyes shut and his mouth just drops open. I'm so angry! You wouldn't use it for mouth sick though, it's just for the effect. So this is a halogen lamp source, which means it's like the sun, and I can make my image, which is a strange image, I must admit. Oops, I'm having trouble controlling it. Darn. Okay, I can make it huge. Or I can make it smaller in its projection. If I put 2 of these lamps on, and I hold up one figure, you get 2 of it. But you can get 2 that way and get things really complicated. And if I've got 2 figures going at the same time, it becomes really quite a complicated story of visual imagery. It's really quite, look, that's, what do you call it? Psychedelic. I find, when I go to see live theatre, that I'm often looking at the human who's playing the part and sort of either I've seen them in another role, or I find them cute, or I find them hideous, whatever. I've got some other baggage attached to that person. I'm thinking of them in other ways than the part they're playing. And with puppets, you don't usually have that baggage. We've both been very attached to stories, and telling stories, and using stories to get an idea across or explore a thought.
Yeah, approach puppetry as the vehicle for telling the good story. The puppetry isn't the end in itself, really. Yeah.
People are going back to puppetry. They're going back to being in a room together to see some live theater. Also, you'll notice it's in every music video, in every film, on every stage production, there's a little bit of puppetry. There's just a huge history, and every culture produces puppets pretty well on all continents. They're wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful things.